What is going on everyone, Parsnip here, and if you don't know, I recently restarted to play expert mode and ended up doing a ton of research. So I decided to go ahead and make a guide combining both my experience and the research that I did to help you guys get past the early parts of expert mode, especially now if you are preparing to play in master mode when Journey Ends comes out. Now please note that this is an early expert mode guide and not a best items pre-hard mode guide, which I will be doing in a future video. So let's go ahead and get started with the best early game items for expert mode. So to make this easier on both of us, we will divide this video into two sections. The first where we will talk about super early and easy to get items that you'll be getting as soon as you start, and items that you should have for facing your first boss in expert mode. Alright, starting off with what is probably the easiest armor and weapon to quickly get you on your feet, and that is the cactus sword and cactus armor. All you need to do when you start your game is find a desert and mine some cacti. Ideally, you dodge the early slime and monsters, especially the ones in the desert, as things like vultures are pretty hard to kill with a copper short sword. In total, you will be needing 10 cactus for your sword and a total of 75 cactus for the full armor. Now, in case you are short on cactus or you died and didn't manage to get all the amount you needed, you should probably give priority to both the sword and breastplate. Once you have the materials, simply hop over to your nearest workbench and craft the gear. Next up, let's set you with some sort of ranged weapon, and what's easier than a wooden bow and some arrows. For the bow, you simply need 10 pieces of wood, which should be at max the equivalent of cutting down 2 small trees. And of course, you will need a workbench. The bow itself provides a measly 4 damage, but sum that damage up with the arrows, you are looking at viable early game weapons. As for the arrows, not only will you be finding them spread out in chests, pots, but you can easily craft them with a bit of wood and stone. Lastly, you have a couple of other items that you can find in pots that are normally overlooked but are indeed quite useful, like the lesser healing potion, throwing knives, and shurikens. Now that we have the incredibly early game gear out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the best items you can get for fighting your first boss, which should either be the Keen Slime or the Eye of Cthulhu. Now I'm basing this off more of the Eye of Cthulhu, and let's pretend that not only I am bad but you are also bad, so it is going to be a bit exaggerated. What I'm talking about is the best items, but not necessarily needed to kill these bosses. Starting off, we can talk about gold armor and platinum armor depending on your world seed. You will either find gold ores or platinum ores. These will be the best go-to armor for fighting the first bosses. However, it does take a while to find them, as they're a little bit rarer than, for example, your normal silver and iron. The fact that it does allow you to take a couple more hits is quite helpful. Now remember guys, ideally you do have the full set of either armor, as using all 3 pieces will provide you with a set boost of 3 defense. In total, you're looking at either 90 platinum bars or 90 gold bars to make the full set. And now that we have the armor out of the way, let's talk about the accessories. Now, this will be my personal take on it, and someone might find other items that work better depending on the accessory bonus. However, these are pretty up there. Possibly one of the accessories that you'll be using the most is without a doubt the Hermes boots. Not only will it be incredibly useful for running through your world, it also increases your speed while fighting the boss, so it makes fighting, for example, the Eye of Cthulhu a breeze. Next up, we have any of the double jump bottles, which are the Cloud in a bottle, Sandstorm in a bottle, and a Blizzard in a bottle. For example, you're going down a hell elevator, you just drop down and right at the end go ahead and jump. The double jump is great for getting over little creatures, especially things like the slimes from King Slime and the little eyes from the Eye of Cthulhu. Lastly, we have all the other slots, and these can really be useful depending on the modifier that you have on the accessory. For example, say you have two items and you don't know which one you want to put. However, one of them has 3 defense and the other one gives a measly 20 mana. Ideally, you pick the things that are most suited for you in your class. In the previous case, for example, I would definitely go for the defense accessory over the mana accessory. And here are some honorable mentions that, though are not really needed for fighting the boss, they are overall good items. The Pharaoh Claws, especially if you are going melee, and the Shark Tooth Necklace if you somehow got a Blood Moon. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, and that is weapons. Which early game weapons are the best for facing your first boss without being too much of a pain to make or find? Well, that's pretty easy. I'll be naming weapons that are best depending on your class, be it ranged, melee, or magic. Starting off with possibly the easiest weapon to acquire, and that is the gold or platinum bow. This one is what I personally use to fight the Eye of Cthulhu, and though I recommend pairing it with something else to get rid of the little eyes, it's possibly the easiest item to obtain and makes it ideal for keeping a safe distance from the boss. Ideally, you pair the bow up with either Jester arrows or Frostborn arrows and you are set. Next up, we do have an item that will really depend on your luck, and that is the Water Bowl. Now this is great for mages. So how would you get this before fighting the boss is by cheesing it. So you go in the dungeon and you break the books before the dungeon guardian kills you. So you can get a certain amount of books and keep going down before the boss finds you. The only drawback to using this is that it's mana dependent, so ideally you do have to farm a lot of stars or pair it up with another weapon. Each use of the Water Bowl requires a total of 10 mana, so for each mana star that you have, you will be firing 2 shots. Lastly, we find ourselves with the melee options. Melee is probably the most viable out of the 3, at least early on, because it's the only weapon that you don't really need to match up with another. Now, the 2 weapons I will be recommending is either the Star Fury, that can be found pretty easily just by discovering the Sky Islands, and if you're lucky it'll be on one of the chests, or the Enchanted Sword. Both deal a considerable amount of damage and both fire projectiles. Now the Enchanted Sword is a bit better as it deals 2 more damage, however it is harder to find compared to the Sky Fury. But get either one of those and you can easily fight the first 2 bosses. So now that you have your armor, your accessories, and your weapons, what else should you have? The answer to that is potions. With a mass variety of potions in the game that are easily obtainable, potions are a solid way to increase your damage, your defense, and heal yourself a good amount. Now depending on how early on you are, you'll only be healing yourself 50 or 100 health. At max, you'll be using a health potion once or twice during the boss fight because of the cooldown. Now, you can consider consuming buff potions, something like an archery potion if you are going range and using the bow, maybe an endurance potion if you're going melee so you can take less damage, or even just go for a swiftness potion to help you keep a safe distance from the boss. The list is pretty long, and all you have to do is find 1 or 2 that suits you, especially if you are having difficulties beating the boss. Again, these are items that are not necessarily needed, but they are pretty useful. And that is pretty much it, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you notice anything I missed or if you disagree with anything I said, be sure to leave it on the comment section below, and as always, I'll catch you all next time.